This tycoon's son is surrounded by many beautiful ladies, but suffers from a strange disease. During the 30 pots of Bonchung, he still hasn't been able to hold a girl's hand, so he is very curious about what love is. The flow of life pushed him to meet a strange girl who looked like a robot. Although this girl has an IQ of 95, she has a spirit of enthusiasm plus femininity hidden deep inside. Because of that, the rich man fell in love with her at first sight. This skinless man with cow's fur hair was exactly sucked golden from a young age. Since he was born, he has been living in a magnificent mansion for more than 10 years. Because of some incident, he lost both parents and lives alone now. A lonely life at the same time as having to celebrate birthdays alone, playing cards alone, playing the game alone, and even choking has to self-medicate. That day, Min-kyu drove his supercar to the rendezvous point to pick up the goods. The delivery man arrived, but Min-kyu refused to open the car door and asked her to wet the box through the back door. After that, Min-kyu took out the box and checked it carefully, and also carefully used a concealed glass to make sure it. The delivery girl named Ja smirked and was helpless when she saw that this customer was so interesting. The next second, Min-kyu discovered a stain on the box, which made him extremely panicked. He looked at the delivery man angrily and said directly, "This must be a mixed goods." After hearing this, Ja immediately thought that he was using the excuse to settle the money not to pay, and immediately asked him to get out of the car and talk. Min-kyu didn't want to be outdone, but angrily said that this stained item was definitely not the limited edition I needed. After that, he also waved goodbye and then stepped on the accelerator and pressed the gear to leave, ignoring Ja standing outside screaming for goods. Suddenly, Ja was hit by a car and fell into the street, so Min-kyu refused to stop. After that, Min-kyu carefully put on his gloves and took the stick and went down to check the situation, tapping on her helmet with a stick to probe. Suddenly, Ja opened her eyes and grabbed the stick and pulled the guy closer. At this distance, Ja was taken away by the guy's cold handsomeness, which took him 3 seconds. And Min-kyu remembered something and screamed in fear and stepped back, while Ja still grabbed his leg and refused to let go. Min-kyu quickly got into the car, but just as he pulled the door up, Ja had already come over and grabbed him by the neck to ask for money and go wherever he wanted. There was no other way. He had to push the door for the girl to fall backwards and quickly kick the Ja away. Turns out that Min-kyu has a very strange Ja allergy. Every time his body comes into contact with human skin, he will get blisters like an electric current running through it. After just a few minutes, his body will be blistered to level 10, which looks very painful. The doctors who saw this type of disease for the first time were also afraid of peeing and afraid of being infected, so they immediately sprayed it to disinfect it. Min-kyu uses a weak breath to say that his illness is not an infectious disease and that it will be cured with just one medicine. Min-kyu originally had a private doctor to treat the skin, but so far there is no antidote. Mr. Lean researched a smartwatch that helped him prevent bad things. It will rely on the change in skin color to recognize the severity of the allergy. If it appears red, he will faint in just a few seconds. If it is yellow, the warning level is now blue, and it will be healthy. Min-kyu laments, "Oh my god. Am I gonna have to live alone for the rest of my life with this disease?" The next morning, when the chicken was just a girl, Min-kyu woke up in a spirit of encouragement. Suddenly, a mini drone flew through the glass door, startling Min-kyu to be on guard. He took the pan in his hand and went to find the place where the noise was coming from and discovered something. Min-kyu opened the hidden blue bag and discovered a USB. He plugged the USB into the computer when a video of a girl polishing appeared. Min-kyu finds this video so bland that he doesn't care much. But the next second was surprising when the girl was a robot again. Professor Baek-kyun next to the robot is standing ad about his great research. Are you lonely or do you need someone by your side? With only 100 billion troops, you can own this RG3 omnipotent robot. Min-kyu is handsome and has a lot of money, but he is not stupid enough to trust this cow. He went online to investigate information about this professor and found that he was really famous for his research. Curiosity arose, so he also wanted to try taking a risk. The next day, Min-kyu was at the research institute, but the place looked unusually gloomy. So the sound of closing the door also startled him. Entering the research institute, there was not a ghost, let alone a human figure. Shinjing was worried and uneasy when suddenly a girl came out from the darkness and walked towards Min-kyu, make him scared to step back. The next second, the girl directly stripped off the clothes she was wearing, causing Min-kyu to involuntarily cover her eyes. The next second, Min-kyu had to roll his eyes in amazement because now in front of him was a girl with a metal body. There is also a moving chip on the chest. Min-Kyu didn't understand what was going on. Holding the stick and pointing it at her to investigate, and a metal knock sounded. It was unbelievable that the person in front of him was a robot. Skeptical, Min-Kyu took off his gloves and checked the goods. At this time, the signals in the robot's head begin to analyze the opponent's actions. And then also dirty a finger touching the Min-Kyu. According to the reflex, Min-Kyu retracted his hand and checked his health watch to see if he had an allergy. But the strange thing is that his health is still normal. This proves that the girl standing in front of her is not a real person. At this time, the girl introduced herself as a pre-programmed robot. The end of the opening and then the negotiation step of the two sides. Professor Baek Kyun begins his essay on the ultimate programming of robots. This robot is programmed by cutting-edge research, so it can understand human emotions. Therefore, robots can completely be a friend next to humans and confide in them like real friends. Hearing this, Min-Kyu's eyes lit up like car headlights because of this he had long wanted. However, earning money from the rich is not easy to Min-Kyu. It is necessary to verify the truth because 100 billion is not a small amount. He asks Baek Kyun to bring this robot to his house tomorrow, to take the test to see if it is real or not before making a decision. In order for the robot to be able to perform more effectively, they specially carried out maintenance of the internal parts. But I don't know if it was because they were too excited to drink beer, but the concentration was a little high. The next second, they threw it in the trash, but unexpectedly, a drop of beer fell into the robot's body. In an instant, a flash of fire flashed, a part of the research institute exploded, and the robot was broken. Professor Baek Kyun also has no time to pursue responsibility. They immediately called the department that provided the accessory link. As a result, because the time is too urgent, it takes at least 3 days to return from abroad. But tomorrow is already a test day. After that, Professor Baek Kyun took a photo of a girl that he had kept for a long time and immediately came up with a rescue plan in his mind. Then the girl on this side received a phone call and she thought it was a phone that was immediately spoken. I told him that I didn't surround him, but why bother me forever? If you want to give me 10 million won right away. On the phone, Professor Baek Kyun calls himself a mold. The girl said a moldy sentence, then using white powder will be effective immediately. Professor Baek Kyun said straight away, "They'll give you 10 million won now where you are." I don't know how long it has passed. Isn't the girl who woke up to mold her ex-boyfriend's name? Professor Baek Kyun was now standing at the door waiting for her. Jaya looked back at her slender figure in panic and couldn't let him see this appearance. Jaya originally wanted to take this opportunity to run away, but he didn't see the road, so he bumped into that person. It's been a long time since I met Professor Baek Kyun's first question. Why did you cut your hair? Why did you cut your hair arbitrarily? But how much did half of my chest pierce? This made Jaya unable to understand that the first question was not to ask the other party's situation. Professor Baek Kyun placed on the table a large envelope containing 10 million won. He asked her to help me with a small thing just by doing 3 hours a day. Jaya was curious about what kind of job she was paid so well. The girl stuffed something mysterious into her eyes and a strange thing appeared. Each person standing in front of her was like being pasted with an explanation book. Moreover, they can analyze their every move and answer all their questions at the same time. Jaya exclaimed in amazement, "Oh my God! It was unbelievable." But just being surprised is not enough even though the robot's reading comprehension function has been linked. But she needs to learn every movement of the robot. So they started teaching her how to walk like a robot. The first is to turn around before turning around when putting something down on the robot. There was never a very cautious sound. They also stay up all night making external armor for robots. He even made a lifelike power button to pass through Min-Kyu's eyes and from there past the inspection door. But the next day, Min-Kyu suddenly discovers that his necklace is missing. He immediately entered the car to search but could not find it. Suddenly, Min-Kyu remembered the deep story that yesterday he was snatched by that girl. The collar must have been snatched by her. He was indeed a mad woman. Unexpectedly, the girl was taken to Min-Kyu's house at this time, but under the guise of a robot. At this time, Jaya received a phone call from a customer yesterday, thinking that he called to pay, but unexpectedly, Min-Kyu just spoke up and asked Jaya to return the necklace to him. Jaya had nothing left to say. She directly scolded him for being a neurotic and even reminded him to see a doctor. After saying that, she immediately turned off the phone, and at this time, the Jaya in the box had been delivered to Min-Kyu's house. Professor Baek Kyun learned through the eavesdropping that Jaya was on the phone, so he immediately told her to turn off the phone. Min-kyu was angry when he suddenly saw the robot being brought to the house. He raised his stick and motioned for all those who were not obliged to leave. To tell the truth, the robot impersonated by Jaya was just like the real thing. Min-kyu arrives in front of the box of robots in front of him and says 3. Jaya slowly opened her eyes and replied, "I love you." But before she could finish speaking, she shouted, "Mom, oxygen." Min-kyu is also scared by this robot for fear of rape. And those who sit in the research institute are also afraid to exude a stench. Because Jaya just looked at it and recognized her cunning name yesterday. But why did he come here? Maybe this was his house, maybe he recognized him. Then Min-kyu took out his phone and called Professor Baek Kyun. Professor Baek Kyun cautiously picks up the phone. Min-kyu asked, "Shouldn't I love you, master? Why did it turn into oh mom, oxygen?" Professor Baek Kyun is thinking about how to explain. Then a colleague wrote 4 words to remind him to say the pattern of friends. Professor Baek Kyun Lim told Min-kyu that she was classified into the normal stereotype and the friend stereotype. Because he was squirrels on the road, he was turned into a friend stereotype. At the same time, remind Min-kyu to press the button on the back of the neck. Restart the 3G power supply, it can work normally. Then he reminded her to behave well. The survival of the research institute must depend on this order. So he followed Professor Baek Kyun's instructions. Hold down the power button after the antique to restore the original mold. Then Min-kyu said to AG3, "What does your dear landlord need?" After that, Min-kyu began to conduct an examination with her. Ask her how to prove herself as a versatile robot. But suddenly the research institute lost power, so his ability to read and comprehend was also lost. She was confused and worried. Based on her IQ, how could she pass Min-kyu's test? One side they are still trying to fix the power line and the test on the other side has already begun. The first is to test the flexibility of the robot. Sit down, stand up, right leg, right hand 2 times, left hand dirty 1 time. This series of movements made the family a little confused. Min-kyu looked at the appearance of the robot and thought that he was about to be exposed. Unexpectedly, Min-kyu said that it really made it difficult for her, and I knew that the body of a robot like you was very heavy. Next are the questions about intelligence on the tablet screen with calculation questions. After calculating the answer, count the number of spices used in the spaghetti and the code of the box. At the same time, you must take out the contents of that box to count as a winner, with a time limit of 3 minutes. Oh my god. For an IQ of only 50 like a family, it's weird to calculate. But when the clock starts counting down, he is worried about what to do. She calmed down and walked decisively towards the yellow box. She put her fist up and slammed at the lid of the box. Jia conveniently got the answer. The result of Min-kyu looked at the clock in less than 13 seconds. He was extremely astonished. He didn't expect to make such an intelligent robot in the world. But when he was about to prepare for the foreign language proficiency test, suddenly he looked into the robot's eyes and felt that something was not right. Jia was a little frightened when he looked up. After that, Min-kyu looked at her chest again, wondering why it was bigger than yesterday. Min-kyu thinks it's not because the battery is swollen. So he got his hands dirty and wanted to check. But the person in front of him was not a robot, but a real girl. At this time, the power line on the other side has been repaired and the screen has been reconnected. Striking them in front of them was the vigilante who was pointing directly at Min-kyu's face and scolding loudly. Seeing the scene on the screen, Professor Baek Kyun was precious on the spot and his colleagues were also standing in the picture. In this way, I have already revealed the truth. Soon after, Professor Baek Kyun received a phone call from Min-kyu. Min-kyu suspects Professor Baek Kyun of using a low-quality battery. Moreover, he also felt very happy to be scolded, and he had never felt so comfortable before. I met the right idiot and never saw anyone like that. This man was suffering from drugs in his throat and the girl, who didn't think much of it, ran to save people. But how can robots run like that? Jia didn't care so much at that time, and went forward and smashed a shot in the back, saving Min-kyu a life. After that, she also gently stroked his back. Min-kyu was surprised and asked what she had done to him just now. But in the robot's equipment, there was basically no expression to deal with. Jia is lying that she is a robot programmed with a lot of diverse human emotions. I have learned how to give first aid in an emergency situation. If you train well, I can still do a lot of things. Min-kyu didn't dare to believe that the girl in front of him was just a robot, tried to get his hands dirty and checked, and immediately grabbed his hand. Min-kyu is immediately sure that this girl is not the male protagonist who spent 100 billion to buy this robot girl. But he didn't know that this robot girl was actually a real person. One day, the research institute organized a meal because they ate overdue food, so everyone's stomach was rumbling. The robot girlfriend couldn't escape now. She was like an ant sitting on a fire. Looking left and right, she couldn't help it. And then she gritted her teeth and patiently answered the master. But she still couldn't bear it and dropped a bomb. Min-kyu immediately got on guard and asked if he heard anything. He pretended to listen to poetry and asked his master if he had just dropped a bomb. Seeing that he was doubting himself, he deliberately pretended to be sniffing, and then showed an unpleasant expression. She also said that this scent was not just a daring to ask him if he wanted to change his underwear. Unexpectedly, Min-kyu was overlooked by her and immediately went into the room to change. The servant took the opportunity to immediately run into the toilet and breathed a sigh of relief. Suddenly, Min-kyu noticed something and turned around and said that her master was not the kind of person who dropped bombs arbitrarily. Suddenly, at this time, he heard something coming from the toilet. Min-kyu became tense. His hand gripped the cane and carefully entered the toilet. And the family inside has finished dealing with the sadness, so he feels very comfortable. But suddenly she found out that this smell was not right. And Min-kyu came in from the outside and saw the family scrubbing the toilet. Min-kyu asks if her hands are wet. Jia immediately said that it didn't matter if she washed the dishes with her hands because she was the highest level in the world. But Min-kyu said who she was burning and immediately walked over and snatched the perfume bottle. Tell me that this is a French limited edition perfume, not a coconut bleach. It's not like she knows 15 languages why her device is having problems. Unexpectedly, the family said that the new high-class toilet is suitable for the smell of expensive perfume. But Min-kyu suddenly found out that the robot was going to sweat. He was about to go forward to check, but unfortunately slipped and fell backwards. Seeing this, he immediately walked over to Min-kyu with joy, secretly not expecting that the robot could even protect him. But unexpectedly, the family went to pick up the expensive perfume bottle and fell on Min-kyu's body at the same time. Min-kyu was also dumbfounded for 3 seconds before slowly stopping his head. She looked at Min-kyu's eyes. Oh my god, that's how it was exposed. But Min-kyu tried to hit his house, angrily telling her to stay away, in order to train the protection ability of the Min-kyu robot to pretend that he is interrupted. Then he covered his face and asked if he recognized the master. She couldn't speak, she had to coordinate with him. But then Min-kyu said that no matter what he looked like in the future, he hoped she would recognize him. If you see him lying on the ground, go into his room and open the bank. In it, there was a pipe that relied on the instructions and poked at the evil brother, who did not understand what he meant. That day, Min-kyu's staff came and he told her to make coffee and bring it out. But when the family brought the coffee, she didn't dare to believe that the person sitting across from Min-kyu was her brother. This made her husband unaware that her brother was working under Min-kyu. And her brother didn't know that she was pretending to be a robot. She turned her back to her brother and walked over trying not to let him see her face. As soon as she put down the coffee, her brother was scared. His face turned pale. Even Min-kyu was startled because he only saw the bald-haired family. Min-kyu asked what was wrong with her hair, but the family only said that it was because the wind was too strong to blow her hair away. Unexpectedly, his brother asked who this was. Min-kyu said that this was the AJ3 robot and asked his brother what he had never seen. Min-kyu introduced me to the Jinbi team leader in my company's investigation team. After that, Min-kyu blames Jinbi for not fulfilling his duty at work. Jinbi didn't stop apologizing at the end. Jia saw the powerful brother in his family in front of Min-kyu become so lowly again. This made her extremely heartbroken because of her brother's hard work. She also no longer hated being kicked out of the house by him. Looking at the shadow of her brother trembling and leaving, she was very uncomfortable in her heart. Turning his head, he saw Min-kyu looking at him with eyes that emitted bitter hatred. Not long after, something unexpected happened again. When he was cleaning up, he carelessly knocked down the fortress with Min-kyu's card, and he seemed to want to go crazy. Min-kyu had to spend 15 years building this fortress in the eyes of a clumsy robot with limbs. Jia saw that he was angry, immediately reported that the battery was below 5 and went to sleep. Professor Baekyu quickly sent someone to pick up the robot to escape the danger this time. The next day, Min-kyu wakes up and asks someone to bring the robot to his house. Looking at the fortress she destroyed yesterday, she thought she had been eliminated. Unexpectedly, he would tell her about what he had experienced, and this fortress contained his memories. which made his eyes both listen and turn red. Min-kyu checks the camera that there is a car going and sees his first love rushing to pick him up. Seeing my ex-girlfriend again after so many years is really embarrassing. GL, who has been living abroad for a long time, returns to the country this time, hoping to marry Min-kyu, although it is said that GL's father plotted to make a family business. But the two of them have feelings for each other in Min-kyu's heart, and they have always liked him. While talking, GL put his hand on Min-kyu's shoulder. Obviously, she didn't know about Min-kyu's illness and held Min-kyu's hand, causing his arms and neck to start showing allergy symptoms. Min-kyu didn't want GL to know about his illness, so he hurriedly found an excuse to leave. Min-kyu tried to suppress the pain, rushed straight into his house, and crawled to the medicine room. When he opened the drawer of the medicine cabinet, he lost consciousness. GL, who was next to him, was also extremely panicked when he saw Min-kyu's appearance. She remembered what he had said the day before, so she immediately took out her tools and performed the trick for him. In his coma, Min-kyu dreamed of what happened when he was 10 years old, and his father had built a fortress with cards with him. Yu-chun was still his best friend. During the 10th birthday party, GL specially prepared a gift for Min-kyu. On the same day, Min-kyu's father drove the car, the whole family laughed and talked happily on the way home, but suddenly an accident occurred. When Min-kyu regained consciousness, he found himself lying in the hospital. Uncle GL said that his parents unfortunately died. Min-kyu cried while asking to find his parents. Uncle GL and Yu-chun were on the side to pat each other, but in fact, in the heart of Yu-chun's father, he just wanted the power of the company. Min-kyu, with the help of GL, organizes a funeral for his parents. As soon as the ceremony was over, he arranged for Min-kyu to sign a document. Min-kyu made an excuse to go to the bathroom. He remembered that during the funeral, someone put a piece of paper in his pocket. He opened it and saw that it was written on it not to sign his name for anyone. Min-kyu comes out of the toilet and overhears GL discussing with his subordinates about a plot to take over the company. The document taken out by Min-kyu was actually a guardian compromise. When Min-kyu signs, GL may win the same agreement to run the entire company. Min-kyu was sitting alone outside when he arranged for his son Yu-chun to come to find Min-kyu with the document. Yu-chun told Min-kyu that you sign here, my father said that you just need to sign here, then we can live together. Min-kyu wrote a curse on it and signed Min-kyu's hand. But at this moment, Min-kyu saw that Yu-chun's hand suddenly turned into a monster, and he ran away in fear. After holding the document and handing it to his father, he opened the document and looked at it, and the signature on it made him dumbfounded. Min-kyu woke up from the dream, and at this time he was still by his side watching over him. Because last night's severe allergic symptoms were due to the treatment of Min-kyu, and he praised her for doing a good job. That day, Yu-chun of the KM company looked for the former team leader GL's brother to come. He wants to inquire about some information about the robot from Jinbi and at the same time take out a video for him to see. Seeing the video of the robot reminded him of yesterday's scene at Min-kyu's house. His mood began to become tense. He told Yu-chun that he didn't know anything about robots. Stepping out of Yu-chun's office, Jinbi knew the complexity of this. The robot category related to the company's rights struggle made him worried and uneasy thinking about this. At night, the naked Jinbi couldn't sleep, and now he was worried about his sister. His wife saw that he had confided and thought that her husband was working too hard and called him to get up and drink beer to confide. The couple talked to each other about GA. Jinbi accidentally learns that gas scientist's boyfriend is a young doctor who researches robotics. After hearing this, Jinbi was even more sure that this matter was closely related to her sister. The next day, Jinbi goes to the research station to find Baek Kyun, who represents his brother GA's identity. Baek Kyun frankly admitted that he used gas appearance to build a robot Aza. Jinbi warned him that if he didn't quickly change his face, he would accuse him. After Baek Kyun heard this, he quickly agreed. On the other side, Min-kyu is telling GA the story of his teenage years. Since childhood, he has lost his parents, so he lives alone and eats instant noodles every day. Many things that tried cooking over and over again made him an expert chef. Jay seemed to feel that the resilient boy was standing in front of him when he heard this. She saw that boy whose face was torn by a shaved vegetable, and he was sobbing. Jay's eyes were full of sympathy, and she gently placed her hand on Min-kyu's shoulder to comfort him. This action makes Min-kyu's heart flutter. Jay asked him if he remembered his first love. Min-kyu stood up and ruffled Jay's hair and grabbed her hand. He very much hopes that his girlfriend, who is also such a robot, can do things with her like a normal couple. But Minkyu didn't know that in front of him was a real girl. He also knows very well that he will forever be unable to contact the person who is dating his girlfriend. Minkyu then goes to see Jie. He tries to strike up a conversation with her, but she feels that Minkyu's way of talking is too outdated. At this time, Minkyu took out a box and opened it to see that it was his mother's necklace. Jie asked Minkyu if he was proposing to you. Minkyu says it's not just a gift for you. Jie didn't show any grief and returned the gift to him and said that she understood what he meant by today's date. So she stood up and wanted to shake his hand as a final goodbye. Minkyu tries to grab Gas's hand, but the moment she holds his hand tightly, he immediately feels uncomfortable. Jie didn't see the abnormality and mocked him, saying that he didn't appreciate my brother, and he would regret it. Minkyu said of course because she was the first and last girl he loved. After Jie left, Minkyu couldn't stand it anymore, and he hurriedly took the prepared weapon that was going to affect him. But he thought that he had nothing to be attached to in this life, so he threw down his head of the profession and picked up his mother's necklace, intending to throw it away. Jie immediately ran to stop him, but by that time the allergy marks had spread to his neck. Jie also had a little sympathy for this rich skinless man, who didn't expect that the turning point in his life would also start here. At this time it was raining heavily, and the moment Jie covered him with an umbrella, his allergies also began to disappear. Minkyu didn't know this, and the two of them sat quietly and waited for the rain to stop. After the rain stops, Minkyu gets up and says goodbye to Jie, saying let's go home. This made Jie very heart-warmed, and just like that, the two of them held hands and talked. Suddenly, he thought about the allergy just now. Why did he suddenly get rid of it? Obviously he didn't have any impact on him. He didn't understand what had happened. On the way home, Minkyu was walking when he suddenly bumped into a gardener. The gardener immediately helped him up and asked him if he was okay. Minkyu immediately pushed him away in fear, but looking at the clock, there was no abnormality. Then he ran over and grabbed the gardener's hand and begged him to touch him. Jie thought Minkyu was crazy, and then Minkyu drove Jie to a neighborhood. Jie thought he wanted to go shopping, so he took his hand and pulled him into a crowded area. Minkyu just wanted to be here to test a little bit to see if he could interact with humans. He was very nervous. He had never been to a place where so many people gathered. He put aside his worries and happily took pictures with Jie, bought a teddy bear for her, and even played a game of wordsmithing together. The Bikyan side came here through the positioning on Jie's body. At this time, the doctor called but suddenly did not know why his illness fell. The doctor immediately told him to quickly take out his clothes for first aid. He told the doctor clearly that he didn't fall ill earlier. While he was panicking and didn't know what to do, he suddenly saw Jie, his body return to its normal state. At this time, Minkyu realized that the cause came from Jie. As long as there is a place with her, his illness will not fall again. He happily ran to hug Jie and told her that he would buy her the best battery in the world so that she could stay with him until the time came. Jie was confused by these sudden confessions, and after speaking, Minkyu even kissed her. Bitch Kayun saw this scene from a distance, so he rushed to Minkyu with a punch, asked him what he was doing, and then led Jie to leave. However, Minkyu also immediately pulled Jie's hand and said that her master was here, where she was going. I was the one who invented her, I was her master, and the two sides kept pulling and pulling. Suddenly, Jie said that the battery was only two left to preserve the robot would go into standby mode. After speaking, he closed his eyes and lowered his head, which made Minkyu worried. When he arrived at the research station, the professor was mad and dared to kiss his Jie, so he decided to take Jie home. Jie asked why she came here, and the professor said that her robot work until today was over. Minkyu is constantly playing with his doctor, regarding the fact that for 15 years, this is the first time that his allergy does not need medication but can be cured on its own. That's all thanks to his robot maid named Jie. But the doctor hurriedly asked what the two of them had done together. Minkyu said simply doing the usual things. The doctor immediately told him to recall the details when the two were together so that he could find a treatment. For some reason, there was a night when his mind was full of her shadow. That makes Minkyu suspect that he has feelings for his robot. As for Jie, after finishing his work as a robot, he is like a man in the clouds. Her best friend saw the fisherman and asked if she meant that neurotic. Jie immediately denied it. She was just worried about whether she would be able to participate in that creative contest. And her project is now also in the hands of the newly appointed team. Should call Jie to inform her that her project has been looked at by the team. So I am preparing to deploy it and then I will contact her again. Jie jumped up happily, but on this side and the other side, it was so restless that it went crazy. The sound rang out, but Jie did not come, but the person who came was the professor. The professor came to inform Mr. Jie that he would not come anymore, and they would also find a new investor. Hearing this, Min-kyu was confused, but he still said loudly, "Your research will not be accepted. Even if no one accepts it, he will not cooperate with a pervert." "Who do you say is perverted?" "I said that he dared to kiss my robot." Min-kyu wanted to explain that it was because he was so happy at that time, but the professor didn't want to hear it and stood up and left. Jie went to Min-kyu's house and called the professor to take his luggage out. Turned around to meet the housekeeper immediately and was scolded by the housekeeper. In a fight, because she was late for work, she was forced to sit in the car and go in. She wanted to quietly go to get her luggage and leave, but she heard a Min-kyu sound, so she hurriedly hid in a corner. But when he raised his head to look, he was startled. "Do you want to hide from me?" Then he pulled Jie into his arms. Min-kyu ironed himself that he was too well trained, so the robot returned to accept the owner. But what he didn't expect was that when Jie arrived, he was discovered by a person from the research institute and immediately called the professor. The professor hurriedly went to find Min-kyu to officially terminate the contract. Min-kyu played the last trick of holding the professor's hand, and his expression began to change. The professor wanted to withdraw his hand if he noticed that Min-kyu's hand was starting to turn red. He was speechless in horror, but what was more terrifying was that it spread to the neck area. Min-kyu begs him to help him only when he comes into contact with the robot so that he does not suffer from this evil disease. Min-kyu wanted to see if the professor sympathized with him, but it seemed that he had already lost. The professor and the research institute team got in the car and left. But Min-kyu's actions also made the professor think. It turned out that a person who was the chairman of a large corporation suffered from a rare skin allergy. Even for 15 years, they have always had to live thanks to medicine. They can't even come into contact with humans. He also thanked the professor for giving him a miracle for giving him. Met such a humanistic robot and improved his allergies. Thinking of this, the professor hurriedly turned around and went to his house and asked her if she wanted to continue pretending robots until the end of the experiment. On the outside, Jia reluctantly agreed, but in her heart she was very happy. Min-kyu has a sad face because he is now back to the dark days of the past. At this moment, he saw that the professor's car had returned to him and he had won. So the contract was officially signed. Min-kyu was so excited that he couldn't hide his joy. However, the professor made a request that was during the trial period. Min-kyu is not allowed to touch even a single hair. In his heart, Min-kyu was disappointed, but in the immediate future, he still had to agree. Jia returned to work and told her to choose a set of clothes to change at will. Because he didn't know what kind of clothes the robot was suitable for, it was very boring to look at that dress. Jia changed her dress and walked out. Min-kyu was immediately attracted by her. He happily wanted to rub her head, but hurriedly withdrew his hand. Jia asked him if he was afraid of being electrocuted. Min-kyu immediately said that he had promised the professor not to touch her body, which left him speechless. But this fairy made people escape their hearts. Min-kyu stood in front of the family and said that he wanted to kiss him very much. As long as she was close to him, his illness would not flare up. But the problem was that he didn't know what it felt like to kiss. The professor knew about it, so he wanted to help him invite a very beautiful girl. As an emotional counselor, he is actually a close friend of the family. Jia said that this girl has a lot of practical experience, and her achievements are teaching how to kiss hundreds of lovers. The girl was prepared to immediately talk endlessly about the natural time and land to kiss each other. Therefore, Min-kyu is taught how to experience reality by having Min-kyu accompany an imaginary family who is walking with his lover. But the two of them at this time found the atmosphere at this time extremely strange. And the love expert saw that the time was ripe to deliberately bump into the elderly. According to the script, Min-kyu will support the family and the two of them look at each other with 4 eyes. The love expert asked if he felt anything, but the two immediately let go of each other and returned to their original positions. The expert whispered into Min-kyu's ear the feeling and atmosphere of the eyes just now. It was a great time to kiss. Don't forget to tell him if you want to be more romantic. Bring an umbrella to the rain. In the evening, Min-kyu made an appointment with his first love to go out, but unexpectedly, the professor also wanted to go with him. In order to prevent the reinforcement from tightening, it will cause his appointment to be foiled, the way the three of them go on a date with Min-kyu. While dating, Min-kyu saw the girl constantly massaging her sore legs. As if he understood what he meant, he immediately asked for permission to go out, and after a while he came back with a pair of shoes in his hand and told her to come in. My girlfriend was not sure and asked me if I wanted you to wear it. Unexpectedly, the next second, Min-kyu took the initiative to kneel and put shoes on his girlfriend's feet. On this side, the family sat with the professor, but Min-kyu's every move was captured by her. Seeing this scene in her heart, she felt a feeling that she didn't know whether it was jealousy or admiration. The girlfriend on this side is right to go in to relieve leg pain more than the real thing, but it's a little out of fashion. Min-kyu only knows how to smile and don't forget to lose to his family. But when I saw that she didn't look at me, I felt restless. Seeing that her eyes were focused, the girl looked at him and asked if the couple knew him. Min-kyu hurriedly said unfamiliarly. The girl hurriedly complimented the two of them for being worthy of their age. The person who spoke involuntarily, as if the listener understood the meaning at all, then picked up a glass of water and drank it. His girlfriend asked him if her milk tea was delicious. Min-kyu was a little choked up. Next, the two of them walked through the night market, but Min-kyu's eyes were always on home. Seeing Jia being hugged by the professor to avoid the car made Min-kyu's heart shake slightly. At this time, the sky suddenly thundered, the sky was about to rain, and the professor told the family to wait for me and I went to buy an umbrella. At this time, the girl also received a phone call that she had to go back for urgent business. Min-kyu is disappointed that his plan to kiss his lover in the rain fails. It was indeed raining. Min-kyu took the umbrella and walked towards the helpless family and said, "Unfortunately, she was just a robot. This precious umbrella was meant to cover her." After saying that, he pressed the button and the inner umbrella turned white. Min-kyu said that the person who designed this umbrella must be a talented person. Jia looked at him in his heart and wanted to come over and tell him that the person who invented this umbrella was me. But someone accidentally bumped into her, causing her to become violent. Min-kyu quickly picked her up. The two of them looked at each other with 4 eyes. This was the best time to kiss. So she took the initiative to kiss Min-kyu, and the umbrella immediately changed to a different color. The family said it would be nice to try again, but Min-kyu was provoked by this robot. At this moment, Professor Baekhyun came back and asked Min-kyu if the pilgrimage was successful. Min-kyu hesitated and was speechless. After returning home, I blamed myself for kissing him, but I still couldn't escape the joy in my heart. And Min-kyu, as well as the soulless person in his head, is only the image of a kiss with his family to Australia, and the shrimp noodles he eats also forgot to spice up. So he was angry with the umbrella, which was lucky that I lost my first kiss, and moreover it was a kiss with a robot. Thinking about it for a while, he came to the conclusion that it was definitely because the expert had accidentally taught him the techniques of falling in love last time. This made him solve the knot in his heart. But he still couldn't escape the unprecedented feeling of urgency to fall asleep. After thinking about it all night, early the next morning, he came to see her and apologized to her for teaching her how to love. Then asked her to practice reprogramming the absolute commands that were not allowed to love the master, but not to repeat the action like last night. But the stupid family said, "What action did he take yesterday? Are you pretending to be stupid to me?" But the robot still showed that he didn't know anything, which made Min-kyu very angry. So Mr. Lean ordered her to clean the entire book room so that there was not a single particle of dust left. Knowing that he deliberately made it difficult for me just because I kissed him. At this time, the robot was really repaired, but it was not able to move vigorously. Tortured her all day, but in the evening Min-kyu couldn't help but call her family. I received a signal to go to see Min-kyu alone. Min-kyu tiredly said that every time I see her, I really want to hug her. But she was just a robot who couldn't eat together, couldn't rest together, couldn't come to fakes together. Therefore, he was very distressed when he found out that he had fallen in love with a robot. The next morning, he went to the professor to denounce the robot, and he did not find out how he was both psychologically and mentally damaged. So we have to see how he treats it. Min-kyu immediately said that a robot had no emotions. He wanted me to treat him and told the professor he didn't need robots anymore. Jia took her granddaughter to an allergy checkup. The doctor found the allergy quite serious, so he asked the nurse to take him for tests. Jia remembered Min-kyu's skin allergy and asked the doctor. The doctor curiously asked her why she had this disease, and she hurriedly denied that there was none. The doctor said that there was a case of such a thing abroad. Through how to find someone you truly trust to heal. Jia is very curious that he is also a human, but why Min-kyu is not allergic when he comes into contact with her. I was thinking about it before I came to the company to take the exam. She didn't remember how much the exam room was, so she called someone to ask for directions. She went to the exam room, but when the person came back, she was in a panic. The staff approached and gave her directions to the exam room. Jia hurriedly thanked and then pulled the suitcase away. Then the employee looked at the suitcase and saw that it was extremely familiar to his eyes, but he couldn't remember. Min-kyu is bored at home, so he decides to go to the company to see the creation to change his mood, and called the assistant to arrange the second floor for him. Jia did not know that his work caught the eye of the chairman. Seeing the love lamp, he immediately asked the inventor in front of this lamp if he could spiritually communicate with the other party. Jia told him of course. When Min-kyu touched him, he mistook the inventor for his robot. Min-kyu knew he couldn't forget her, so he got into the car to look for her. On the way, he entered a gas station to fill, but did not open the car door, but used a sound amplifier to ask the staff to fill up with gas. The clerk returned his card and the extra money instinctively opened the door to pick it up, but completely ignored this important detail and drove away. After walking for a while, he suddenly remembered, immediately stopped the car on the sidelines, checked his neck to see if there was anything wrong. Then I checked the health ring again, but it was still in a normal state. This made Min-kyu not dare to believe that the robot was not sitting next to him. Too suddenly, he rushed straight to the hospital, and his therapist hurriedly ran out to greet him. But when he arrived, the doctor saw Min-kyu supporting an old man and himself. Suddenly, Min-kyu walked over and hugged the doctor, saying that 15 years have been hard for him. The doctor excitedly asked when this matter started, weighing the disease for 15 years, why is it now naturally cured? Min-kyu tells him when he remembers the robot feeling that he will be stimulated. The doctor said that it was good, there was no need for a robot next to him and his disease did not recur. Now he can be like an ordinary person looking for a love half. But Min-kyu asked how it was impossible to keep the robot if he could find his half. If he saw him next to such a robot, his wife would be scared into running away. That made Min-kyu fall into deep thought. After the contest ended, Jia recalled the times when she was with Min-kyu when she pretended to be a robot, which made her very confused. Could she be the antidote as the doctor said? She couldn't do it, she had to go to the doctor to ask for clarification. When Jia sat down, the doctor recognized her as the one who brought her niece to the doctor and assumed that she had come to ask about her condition. But Jia immediately said that she didn't want to ask him about the problem of allergies to people last time. If the patient meets someone they trust, the disease will be cured. The doctor immediately showed her the medical record of a foreigner. It is because of meeting the maid that the two love each other, allergies can change for the better. This proves that the maid is his antidote. Jia asked again if the antidote might not be human, for example, a doll that looks exactly like a human or a robot. The doctor immediately asked her if she knew Professor Baek Kyun. It turns out that this doctor has also been treating Min-kyu for 15 years. The doctor was taken to the research institute to look at the robot in front of him, and then looked at Jia, which was exactly the same as casting. On this side, Min-kyu sadly invites Professor Baek Kyun to go for a drink, confiding that he doesn't know why he loves robots. The professor hurriedly said that this was not love, but because the robot accidentally cured him, he mistakenly became grateful for love. But Min-kyu says that he can feel that the robot Jia loves him too. The professor awakens him that this is impossible, and that he is just a robot. Min-kyu helplessly asked the professor what he should do to solve this problem now. When the professor returned, he met Jia with a suitcase and left. After the doctor came here, he made a fuss for a while, and now Jia came back to blame the professor. It is obvious that Min-kyu is allergic to contact with robots. Now that he has recovered from his illness, if he knows that Jia deceived him, he is most likely to be harmed by her. The professor said that now the only way to solve this is for Min-kyu himself to erase all the memories of the robot. Only then can he end his trust in the robot. So Jia once again faces Min-kyu in the form of a robot. Facing the robot, Min-kyu tells Jia that during this time she is not only my friend but also my treasure. She even healed me and helped me turn into a normal person who integrated into the community. Jia said that the person who cured him was not me, but he himself removed the knot in his heart to heal himself. At the same time, she thanked Min-kyu for making her still valuable. Suddenly Min-kyu tells you to turn into a common pattern. I have to reprogram your system. The robot asked again if I reset all my memories of the owner, they would be erased forever and could not be recovered. She asked him if he was sure. Min-kyu said he was sure. Jia tells Min-kyu to press her buttons within 5 seconds and the system will be reset. At this point, Min-kyu took off his necklace and put it on Jia. Before this necklace, he once said that he would only give it to the person he loves the most. Min-kyu finds the power button behind Jia's neck, but when he presses it down, he cries silently. And Jia still said in a crooked way, 5 seconds later, I will erase the memory of the master. Although she was very strong as a robot, when she came home, She cried as if she herself had lost her heart. Minkyu tries to be a strong reminder that a new life awaits him with a lot of love by his side. However, when he arrives at the company, everyone runs away even though Minkyu tells everyone to do their jobs normally. But no one dared to stop in his eyes. There was no longer a shadow of a person. When it was time to eat, Minkyu went to sit with his assistant, startling him, and the chairman changed so much. That night, Jia was sleeping when suddenly the phone called the other end of the phone, Minkyu asking why it took so long to answer the phone. Jia heard a familiar voice and immediately jumped up. Minkyu says he's going to buy her love light bulb product. Hearing this, Jia tried not to suppress her cry. Minkyu asks her what to do without answering if he wants to sell anymore. Jia regained his composure and said that he seemed to be very free. That's right, Jia told me that if I have free time I will go find friends to talk to. But Minkyu asks his only friend who has gone away. Hearing this, Jia was heartbroken and said, "Coincidentally, I'm also going away so you don't sell it anymore." She told Minkyu not to contact her in the future. So she turned off the phone after speaking. The next day, Jia went up to make a passport to go abroad. She told her sister-in-law to go abroad to develop her career. That night, Minkyu touched the love light again, and the robot appeared in front of him. He couldn't hold back his emotions. He missed his robot Jia, remembered his heart ached and cramped. So to relieve his emotions, he decided to hand over the job to his assistant while he carried his backpack to travel. But when he sat on the train, he saw a girl who looked exactly like his robot. He didn't dare to believe his eyes, so he stared at that girl. The extremely confused girl immediately held the drink to avoid his gaze. The two sat like this for a long time, but the other party did not take their eyes off the girl. The next touch, there was a passenger on the train. He woke up and picked up the bag and left. After the shadow of his back disappeared, Jia hurriedly ran to the toilet to relieve his emotions. Obviously, the person he likes is in front of him and can't admit it. But what she didn't expect was that Minkyu hadn't left yet. He calls the professor and asks him what pattern the robot's face takes. The professor paused for a moment and said that he was modeled after the personality, habits, and appearance of a college student. But now that he was no longer in contact with that person, he asked Minkyu why he was interested in this matter. Minkyu hesitated to answer just because he was curious, and he even asked if he would ever have a chance to see her again in this life. The professor immediately reminded him that even if he did, it would be better to pretend that he didn't know him, otherwise others would think he was crazy. On the outside, he said he knew, but in his heart, Minkyu still couldn't let go. Jia got out of the car and watched Minkyu get off as well. Sitting in the car, she saw her go into a restaurant that had just cleaned the shop for the old woman. It turned out that Jia said she wanted to go to relieve herself, so she went to her mother-in-law's house to stay for a few days to help her sell. Her every move was closely followed by Minkyu without Jia knowing. In the evening, Minkyu couldn't help but rush into the store opposite Jia, saying that she knew me, right? Jia suddenly hesitated and said, "No, I don't know you." Minkyu immediately said, "Aren't we sitting on the train together?" Seeing this, Jia immediately said, "Right, we are sitting across from each other. But what's the matter?" Minkyu immediately asks if you can talk to me for a bit. But Jia hurriedly said that she was very busy now and had no time. Minkyu says, "It's okay, I'm waiting for you to finish work." Going crazy, the thick-faced boy insisted on not going. She immediately ran into the kitchen and took off the Minkyu necklace she had given to the Jia robot and conveniently placed it under the plate. All of Minkyu's eyes fell on Jia, causing her to go into a frenzy again. Knowing that it was inevitable, Jia took the initiative to ask him what was wrong. "Maybe it's because I'm sitting across from him that you followed me all the way here. Aren't you normal?" He also said that he didn't mean anything to him, told him not to waste time, the kind of person he was not to his taste, so he quickly left. But unexpectedly, Minkyu said I was hungry and gave me a portion of sashimi. He also pointed to the apron and asked her if her name was Hongsu. Jia helplessly took the phone and called the professor, who suspected that the phone could not be contacted. She immediately texted the professor, but waited for a long time and still didn't see the professor reply, so Jia went into battle herself. Minkyu says she looks a lot like his robot friend Jia. She immediately said that she was sorry that the professor had come to see her a few years ago and had paid her 10 million won to get her face designed for the robot. So he had to understand that a person was a machine and a machine was a machine, but when she encountered Minkyu's shoes, she also turned off the electricity. "I knew I just wanted to look at you for a while, and then I'd go right away." Jia finished speaking, immediately grabbed him by the neck and dragged him out and chased him away. Minkyu hasn't given up on getting his fingers dirty on the alley and wants to rent a room to stay overnight because there is a bedroom for rent here. On the side of Professor Baek Kyun, after dealing with a few computer problems, he went home with a consolation attitude. When he pulled out his phone, he was shocked when he read Ja's message. He hurriedly picked up the phone to call the doctor, and he said that it would be very dangerous to stop Minkyu or else. Early the next morning, Minkyu rushed to the store where Ja worked, but she was nowhere to be seen. And Ja was walking in the breeze on the coast at this time. Because of how he felt, Minkyu ran to the sea to look for Ja, and the two met each other. He was overjoyed when he saw the girl in front of him. But the smile faded when he saw the neck on Ja's body. This is the magic bracelet left by his mother, and he gave it to her before resetting the robot. He hurriedly stepped back just as he was about to go forward to explain. At this time, he felt extremely uncomfortable and the allergy began to flare up. The watch also warned of an emergency, and the allergy began to spread to the neck. After only a few seconds, he lost his strength and fell to the ground. His face showed the same pain. Ja was equally panicked at this time. She wanted to help him, but she didn't dare to touch him. Suddenly, Baek Kyun and the doctor ran from wherever they came from, and they were extremely surprised. The professor quickly pulled out his tools to give him first aid on the spot because the spread had all over his face, looking very miserable. After that, everyone called an ambulance and escorted Minkyu home in an unconscious state. The doctor is always in the room on duty and monitoring his condition, but whether Minkyu will wake up or not is no longer a matter of speculation. Ja and everyone standing outside were also extremely worried despite the bone-chilling weather. And Minkyu is in a deep coma. But in his mind there is always the image of the Ja woman and beautiful memories. This made his heart sob and beat very hard, so the doctor gave him a dose of sedation. I don't know how long it took for Minkyu to finally open his eyes, and the allergy was temporarily controlled. When I went outside, I saw a person wearing an isolation suit, and I could tell through my eyes that it was Ja. Her eyes were filled with worried and concerned, but Minkyu didn't care and walked away ignoring life. After walking a few steps, he lost his strength and spread to the floor. Ja hurriedly ran over to help Minkyu but stopped when he remembered something. Minkyu had to suppress his emotions at this time because he felt extremely desperate at this time. After being axed into the room by everyone, Minkyu asked his assistant to file a lawsuit against the Research Institute for fraud. Their side deliberately hired people to pretend to be robots, which is unacceptable. The assistant also only knew how to reluctantly obey and go to prepare documents. After that, Jean B presented him with a letter of resignation with the excuse that it was a page long. After reading these lines, Minkyu could only laugh in vain. He was extremely angry when he learned that the person pretending to be a robot was the assistant's biological sister. The doctor at this time also admitted that he also knew this. But because it was in his favor, he didn't let people tell the truth. He apologized for letting today's incident happen. Minkyu was so tired from a long day that he didn't want to hear any more explanations. The next morning, Ja was there early to prepare food for Minkyu, but when he woke up, his face was not very happy. Ja said that she cooked carefully and protectively, so it was very clean for him to rest assured. But Minkyu didn't say anything, just dumped the food directly into the trash and turned around. But after walking a few steps, Minkyu fell down again because his body was still very weak. Ja knew that Minkyu didn't want to ask anyone at this time, so she could only stand and watch from a distance. She continued to bring food to Minkyu the next day, but he accidentally called her thick-faced and wanted me to withdraw the lawsuit. Although Ja tried to explain, Minkyu refused to listen and threw the whole table on the ground and chased her away. After that, Minkyu returned to the room lying on the bed and sighed sadly. Ja hadn't given up, standing outside and saying inside, "No matter how much you hate me, I'll come to visit you every day." Minkyu sounded a little shaken at this time and wondered if he should believe her words anymore. The next morning, a small incident occurred when Ja was on her way to deliver rice to Minkyu. At this time, Minkyu was sitting at home and waiting for the rice to be brought by Ja, but he never saw it. He began to lose faith in her and said that the fake was still fake. At this time, Ja also arrived and put the food on the table for him. But Minkyu still woke up and let go of the bad scolding and chased her away. Ja was shot in the hand by a piece of glass, so he was injured, but it was not harmed at all compared to the wound in his heart. She had short tears, long tears, and slowly drooled out of Minkyu's house. The guy who stood by and watched the figure fall into his heart was no better. Looking at the drops of syrup rolling on the floor, his heart ached immensely. In the evening, Minkyu surfed the internet and saw a news announcement about the 1,000-year meteor shower. He remembered that rainy day he had promised Ja that if the meteor was real, Then he will take her up the mountain to pray that she will be less stupid. But he didn't expect that one day a meteor would come so quickly. Min-kyu immediately drove the steed up the mountain at the speed of an altar. When he arrived, he saw that everyone around him was holding hands with his loved one. But he still couldn't see the figure he was looking for. Just as he was about to turn his buttocks away, Min-kyu saw a familiar figure appear in front of him. He asked her again what she had come here to do. Jia said that she came here to explain everything to him. But she didn't know where she should start because she was shaking very much right now. Min-kyu was also very curious about the reason, so he told her to talk about the day she entered my house. Jia began to explain the facts and misunderstandings when she first walked into his house. She also confided that the days of winning as a robot and being with him were the happiest days in her life. For the first time, she received love and dimension from such a son. After confiding for a while, the atmosphere at this time was also lighter. Min-kyu wanted to reach out and rub his head, but thinking of his illness, he hurriedly withdrew his hand. Jia saw him like this, so he took the initiative to put his hand on his head and grabbed Min-kyu's hand. But Min-kyu thought something and let go of her hand and stood up and said, "All misunderstandings have now been cleared up," and he thanked her for telling him the truth. Moreover, the memories when the two were together also made him very happy. Jia still didn't understand what he was wanting. Min-kyu says that we should go back to the trajectory of our previous lives. Thank you, Jia, for all, and say goodbye to my robot girl. After speaking, Min-kyu turned on his heel and walked away. But Jia had time to say a few sentences that could be considered a confession. Whether you need me or not, my life can't be separated from you. No matter what kind of illness you have or what you look like, I don't care because I know that I only love you. At this moment, Min-kyu was really shaken and collapsed in front of this girl. He slowly walked over to where Jia was standing and gently hugged her cheek, and a romantic kiss began to appear. At this time, he no longer cared about his monstrous illness and ignored life. At this time, shooting stars also appeared in the sky, making the scene extremely romantic. I don't know how long they have been kissing, but Min-kyu's allergies have stopped appearing. After that kiss, both Min-kyu and Jia smiled extremely happily. Moving on to a press conference at Min-kyu's company. He stood on the podium and confided to reporters about his allergy. He had been very miserable for so many years, but at this moment he felt very happy because he had found someone who loved him sincerely. Not only that, but the research company he bought earlier is now also developing very well. Professor Baek Kyun also had the opportunity to appear because he was the first pioneer of the new technology family. Moreover, he is also the one who predestined these two people to come together. The ending of the film is the scene of the two walking together in the snow and living happily together until the end of their lives.